Okay, my biggest takeaway from this semester in history of China would hands down be what we've learned in terms of the philosophy of China. Um, Usually when the history of China is taught, it's probably it's probably distilled down to a meaningless list of names, numbers, and events and dates. Um, when in reality, I think the biggest value, the biggest practical value that can come from learning about the history of China is the thought process, the philosophy, the ideas, and why and under what circumstances those ideas developed. Um, that's what would really impress somebody later on in life. So I'm going to read an excerpt of John Chinaman. It was one of the texts. It was one of the texts that were part of this course. Obviously, it wasn't actually written by a Chinese person. It was actually written by a Westerner pretending to be a Chinese person. But nevertheless, its purpose is to point out how a Chinese person probably would have felt. A traditional Chinese person probably would feel about Western society. It says, your society, to use your own word, is progressive. That's a word still used today. You are always moving on. Everyone feels it a duty, and in most cases it is a necessity to strike out a new line for himself. And this was written in 1900. This still absolutely applies to today's society. To remain in the position in which you were born, you consider it a disgrace. To be a man, must venture, struggle, compete, and win. To this characteristic of your society is to be attributed, no doubt, its immense activity and its success in all material arts. But to this also is due the feature that most strikes a Chinaman, its unrest, its confusion, its lack, as we think, of morality. Among you no one is contented, no one has leisure to live, so intent are all on increasing the means of living. So that's how this Western author felt that Chinese people would view our society as successful, industrious, materialistic, and entirely missing the point of what he, as a traditional Chinese person, would feel to be the most important thing, which is virtue. And this exact idea you can see in the Tao Te Ching. I have a copy of the Tao Te Ching here. Chapter number 44 says, fame or integrity, which is more important? Money or happiness, which is more valuable? Success or failure, which is more destructive? If you look to others for fulfillment, you will never truly be fulfilled. If your happiness depends on money, you will never be happy with yourself. Be content with what you have, rejoice in the way things are. When you realize there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs to you. And so it's clear here. The Tao Te Ching asserts here that the greatest value in life is not material possession. It's not fame. It's not money. The greatest fulfillment, the greatest purpose of life should be integrity and happiness. And so being not only an establishing piece of Chinese philosophy, the Tao Te Ching, not only being an establishing piece, I think it probably went along with what was kind of there in the first place. What kind of ideals were there in the first place? the Chinese traditionally do not view wealth as the end, at least to the degree that we do. And so, looking at this, you really do gain a deep appreciation of that characteristic. So John Chinaman continues to say, your people no doubt are better equipped than ours with some of the less important goods of life. They eat more, drink more, sleep more, but their superiority ends. They are less cheerful, less contented, less industrious, less law-abiding. Their occupations are more unhealthy for their body and mind. They are crowded into cities and factories, divorced from nature and the ownership of the soil. Again, I feel like he's, describing my own life almost. That's exactly how our society works today, even though this is written in 1900. And this Chinaman that's being this pretend traditional Chinaman abhors that, sees little value in it, sees it as counterproductive to the true purpose of life. And interestingly enough, he talks about how we eat better, we drink better, we sleep more. And Confucius said in Analect 7:16, to eat coarse food, drink plain water, and pillow yourself on a bent arm. There is pleasure to be found in these things, but wealth and honor gained in inappropriate ways, these to me are like evaporating clouds. It's almost like Confucius was responding directly to what John Chinaman said there. If better food and better water and better sleep comes at the expense of again, Tao Te Ching, integrity and happiness, that would be what Confucius would describe as wealth and honor gained in inappropriate ways, which are like evaporating clouds. It's just amazing how these three texts, it's almost like they're speaking to each other. One was written by Confucius, one was written by Lao Tzu in 6th century BC, and one was written by a Westerner pretending to be a Chinese person in 1900, and yet they almost have a conversation with each other. The Tao Te Ching and Confucius qualifies, explains why a Chinaman would have such abhorrence to a society that not only existed then but still totally exists today. Materialistic, uncontented, and unscrupulous. And so, I say this is what, I take away most from this semester. And yeah, it's just fascinating how, this is not just history of China. This is almost, this is almost just philosophy, and you can see why the Chinese had such a different way of viewing the world, and how it was really, in many ways, a more virtuous worldview. And so I think that's just fascinating. And so that's that whole idea of Chinese philosophy is what I take most out of this class. Thanks.